This episode of the Ask Joe Powder Powdcast is brought to you by Gema. Are you looking for a solution to coat your most difficult products with no touch-up? Then Gema's dynamic contouring equipment is the right solution for you. Unlike robotic coating, dynamic contouring offers greater flexibility without all the programming hassle while correctly positioning each powder gun to automatically coat your parts. For more information, call 877-437-6771. Once again, that's 877-437-6771. And be sure to mention, Ask Joe sent me. When you want to know that everything is covered, complete it with Gema.
Hello, all you powder coating fans, and welcome to episode number 16 of the Ask Joe Powder Powdcast. Thanks for taking time to join us. We really appreciate your support. I'm your host, Joe Powder, aka Kevin Biller, and with me is my esteemed colleague, sidekick, and the urbane yet down-to-earth Nathan. He's our powder coating formulator dude.
Stay a while and listen. We're broadcasting from the PCR studios in Columbus, Ohio. Just so you know, the purpose of the Ask Joe Powder Podcast is to bring news and technical know-how to the global powder coating community. I just wanted to mention here, if you're a avid listener of the show, you probably noticed we weren't on schedule this episode, and there's a reason behind that. We've been really quite busy. We just got done. We put on a short course. It's called the Powder Coating Kitchen, where we, it was because of current circumstances, it was all done online. But yeah, we do a course where we instruct people on powder coating technology and how to choose the materials that go into a coating formulation and then how it's all put together in the end. And yeah, it's really pretty interesting doing it online this time around, but I thought it went really well.
Yeah, that's this powder coating kitchen is something we've done live pre-COVID, and we do it. It's a hands-on and presentations type format within our laboratory in Columbus, Ohio. But this time we had to convert it into a virtual version of the event, and boy, it took a lot of effort just to get all the mechanics and everything coordinated with that. So, but we're back, and we're happy to have your attention.
And if you're listening and you are interested in that sort of training, keep an eye out because we're going to definitely be doing the same course again. So let's get it rolling.
Okay, but before we do,
Shout out.
I'd like to give a kind of a somber shout out to Senka Selik. If you remember, fans, in episode 15, we featured a 4-part question from Senka, and she's an engineer who's working on a project to take powder coating into their factory, which makes parts for electric bicycles. The factory is located in Bosnia. And the parts go to, I think if you're in Europe, you probably recognize this. They're called ruffian bikes or rough cycles. Actually, Cristiano Ronaldo, he bought one of their bikes. They're pretty cool. But anyway, the reason for the shout out is Senka had a couple follow-up questions, and we gladly obliged her with some answers. But there was a gap in her response just a couple weeks ago. And she said, "Hi, Kevin. Well, unfortunately, I was diagnosed with the coronavirus, so currently I am not working." And she has a little frowny face. However, your podcast made my day, and I'm really happy that I can contribute to the powder coating community, at least by asking you tons of different questions. She said, thank you for sharing your knowledge the way you do. I'm sending greetings to you, your family, and your Powdcast friends. So, Senka, please, 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 get well soon, recover quickly, get back on your feet. We're all pulling for you. So, let's move on to our news in our Guess What segment.
Guess what?
Akzo Nobel Powder Coatings has announced that they're building a new state-of-the-art and sustainable plant in Chongli in Taiwan. They basically went all out, making the new plant to be closer to its overall energy and water sustainability ambitions. They expect it can reduce energy consumption by 30%, increase water reuse rate to 60%, and achieve zero VOC emissions, in addition to creating a safer and healthier working environment. So they're expecting the plant to be operational in the third quarter of 2021.
You know, that's kind of impressive that, a big company like this is dedicating their new operations to be as sustainable and ecologically friendly as possible. I think pretty impressive.
All right, and then from PCI Mag, Axalta announces they have a new organizational model to drive performance. The Axalta Coating Systems announced plans to more closely align its global organization with its two global business segments to drive improved performance. So basically they have two initiatives to increase organizational effectiveness and enable growth.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting, Nate. Whenever I see something like this, I always think, whoa, wait a minute. This means you're going to cut a lot of staff. You're going to make people redundant or rationalize your workforce. But I checked with a couple of my friends that work in the powder coating groups at Axalta, and they said, no, this is what they say it is. They're actually just restructuring, and everybody has jobs, and they're not all getting thrown out on the street. So.
Thanks for clarifying that, because it just looked like a bunch of words that didn't really have much meaning. So,
yeah, and I did get that from like I said, some good friends at Axalta. Hey, we got one more item in the news. This one has to do with Arkema, which as you all know, is a French chemical giant. They placed their first ever green bond, and they're going to use the proceeds to finance the construction of a new plant in Singapore that'll manufacture 100% bio-based real sand. That's a trade name, polyamide 11. This green bond is for 300 million euros. It has a maturity of 6 years, blah, 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 blah. But the point is here, powder coating friends, it's not uncommon for corporations to issue a bond to raise some money so that they can do some capital, expending, improvements, building plants and things of that nature. This is a new form of financing where it's actually an initiative by the World Bank. It was started in Sweden, actually, when people were trying to establish a more sustainable way to finance new builds. So pretty impressive. Hats off to you, Arkema. Good luck with that project. Okay, so now it's time for the Q&A portion of our podcast.
Do you have a question? Ask Joe Powder. Well, you can ask him. Ask Joe Powder. He has the answer that'll advance your powder coating. It's the Ask Joe Powder Powdcast.
All right, our first question comes from Veselin in Serbia. He says, "Hi, Joe. We have an automatic spray booth with 8 automatic and 2 manual touch-up guns. When's the best to use the manual touch-up, before the automatic guns or after? Also, we heard that the charging is negative. Why? Would it be better if it's positive? And what's the difference?"
Okay, Veselin, thanks for your questions. And I'm not positive about my answers, but I'll try not to be negative.
Womp womp.
Okay. Well, thanks for your questions, and they really are good ones, especially if you're just getting involved in the powder coating industry. Let's talk about the application system that you have. One of the challenges with electrostatically applying powder coatings is penetrating tight inside corners of your parts, if you have them, and maybe other hard-to-reach areas. The electrostatic field created by the ions generated at the powder gun tip set up what we call a Faraday cage, which basically causes the residual electrostatics or ions in the air to repel the approaching powder particles. And this Faraday cage effect can be exacerbated by the insulative effect of powder that's already deposited on the part. So here's where I'm going with this. What I've found in practice, it's much easier to coat the tight corners and recesses on a part before you apply the powder on the easy to coat areas. So consequently, it's better to manually touch up these tough to coat areas before triggering your automatic spray guns. So the answer would be, do your touch up before you do your automatic spraying equipment. So put it at the front of your booth. Now your question regarding negative versus positive charge, and I'm no physicist, I'm a chemist, I'm a formulator, but what I do know is creating a negative charge is easier and more efficient than generating a positive charge. Negative charge, as you probably know, consists of electrons, whereas positive charge relies on protons. And if you just look at mass, from a physical standpoint, protons are 2,000 times the mass of electrons. And the other thing, I guess, is generating electrons is quite easy and controllable. It's a very well-known technique known as corona discharge, which is used in the majority, if not all, of the powder application equipment. Now that said, there is a kind of a unique type of powder coating application called tribocharge, and basically this does create positively charged powder particles, but it's through frictional charging. This involves conveying a powder coating through a specially fabricated spray gun, which, if I'm not mistaken, has a PTFE or Teflon-like lining. That Teflon robs the powder particles as they rub against it. They rob it of electrons, thus creating a net positive charge on the particle. The output of these guns is somewhat less than the delivery of a conventional corona discharge negative gun, but the charging efficiency is better because there are less free ions generated. This technology was developed in the 1980s by a Swedish company, Swedish people, and is still quite commonly used in Scandinavian powder application systems. So, a little side note there. Hope this helps. Best regards, Joe.
Let's take a quick break to hear from one of our sponsors.
Gama's Optiflex Pro manual gun uses Power Boost technology, which gives you the industry's highest charging power at 110,000 volts and 110 microamps, allowing for faster and more efficient powder coating. We're handing you more power, more quality, and more control. For a demonstration, call 877-437-6771. Once again, that's 877-437-6771. And be sure to mention, Ask Joe sent me. When you want to know that everything is covered, complete it with Gama.
The Powder Coating Research Group is a proud sponsor of the Ask Joe Powder Powdcast. PCR is the only independent laboratory dedicated to powder coating technology. We do everything from raw material evaluation, formulating the next generation of coatings, new product development, testing, troubleshooting, training, and consulting. Find out more, visit our website at powdercoatingresearch.com, or you can email Kevin Biller at kevinbiller@yahoo.com. Thanks for listening to the Ask Joe Powder Podcast. All right, our next question comes from Victor in Mexico. He says, "Hi, Joe. First of all, I want to say hello from Mexico. We have a nightmare here. In our plant, we paint powder coat over aluminum and steel. We paint poles, and we've been having trouble because the paint is peeling. We do pretreatment with an alkaline pH 11 to 15 solution, and then we use a phosphate solution. Any suggestions as to what we're doing wrong?"
Well, hello, Victor, and greetings from Columbus, Ohio. Your problem certainly sounds serious, and I'm going to do my best to help answer it. Probably have a couple questions in here for you, Victor. I wonder what the condition of your poles are prior to the pretreatment, and if your process is actually cleaning and phosphating the surface adequately. I also wonder if the problem is both with steel and aluminum, or just one of them. Does your phosphate have a fluoride additive to allow etching of the aluminum? And that's a critical question. If the system does not contain fluoride, it's really not going to work very well with aluminum parts. And just a suggestion, you can send a few test panels through your pretreatment system and see if you experience the same lack of adhesion. That's going to tell you whether or not it's your parts or if it's your cleaning pretreatment system. The other thing that you might want to pay close attention to is if you don't feel your pretreatment system is out of control, you might be experiencing undercure of the coating. So check this out. Test panels would be a really good way to do that, or a light gauge metal or parts that you may have available in your plant. So please let me know your progress and get back to me about those questions I have. Thanks, Joe.
And we have a follow-up from Victor. He said, "First of all, the problem is on aluminum poles and sometimes on lamps. And the problem represents about 2% of our sales. But it's currently with the black and brown colors. Perhaps the problems just appear only at some part of the pole. To introduce you to history, we cast the base of the pole and the body is extruded, which we buy from a supplier. We weld both parts together. Let me check to see if we use a fluorine additive. I'll send a few samples to a lab to analyze, but they haven't sent me any reports yet. My question is, why are a few poles peeling? Maybe it's a bad control system. Maybe we have contamination. The system of pretreatment is by immersion. Is this a problem? Now, to prevent more claims, we're using a steel wheel abrading to do more surface, but this is mechanical and it's too slow.
Okay, well, let me see if I can answer your questions with that information. Sounds like the problem is exclusively with aluminum parts, and it probably has something to do with your iron phosphate pretreatment. So again, I have to emphasize, do you have a fluoride additive in your phosphate pretreatment system? And the reason for this, and I think everybody in our audience, if you're trying to iron phosphate aluminum, it's not going to work well because iron phosphate doesn't work on aluminum. So you need either a fluoride additive or you need to switch out your system. So if you do not have that fluoride additive, you better talk to the chemical supplier right away. Now, as for the cleanliness of the immersion system, just please ensure that you clean the tanks regular. And you can look at the surface of the solutions in your tank. If you see oil and contaminants floating on them, it's they're beyond the time to change them out or clean them. So you just want to avoid having those oil and contaminants accumulate in your solutions. So hope this helps, Victor. Best regards, and take care. Joe.
And before we wrap up, we'll fill you in on some of the upcoming events.
Hey friends, where are we going?
To an upcoming event.
China Coat 2020 has gone virtual. It's the 25th edition of the China International Exhibition for Coatings, Printing, Inks, and Adhesives. And it'll be held in Guangzhou as scheduled December 8th through 10th. But they're also going to be making available virtually and have a bunch of different ways that people can access it remotely, because people just aren't traveling, and it's a lot safer that way. Then the European Coating Show has been postponed to September of 2021, and it was originally scheduled for March. They made the decision to reschedule it to the 14th through 16th of September 2021, again because of the pandemic and associated travel restrictions. We have a couple more 2021 shows we can mention. The DSCT Focus.
Yeah, that's the Detroit Society for Coatings Technology.
All right, that one's in Plymouth, Michigan, May 6th, 2021. Then Paint and Coatings in Barcelona, Spain. That's June 1st and 2nd, 2021. And the Eastern Coating Show in Atlantic City, New Jersey is the 9th through 11th of June, 2021.
Okay, well, before we say goodbye, I want to just tell you, you can find the Ask Joe Powder column in print and on associated websites with Powder Coated Tough magazine, which is published by the Powder Coating Institute. You can also find us at in the print version and also on the website of Polymers Paint and Color Journal. That's published out of the UK. And finally, you can find us on the website of Paint and Coatings Industry magazine, which is pcimag.com under their Finishing Flash tab on their first webpage.
And our website is askjoepowder.com. You can find all of our old episodes on there. If you want to be aware of new episodes when they come out, whether they're on schedule or not, we're on all of the normal podcast platforms, the Apple, Google, Spotify, Stitcher, etc. We have a YouTube channel and Twitter. That's at AKA Joe Powder. And if you want to ask a question to be answered either on the air or off, the email address is askjoepowder@yahoo.com, or you can call into our voicemail and leave a message at country code 1-478-2-ASK-JOE. That's 1-478-227-5563. This has been a production of the Powder Coating Research Group. Our music editing and all that sort of fun stuff is done by Nick Page. It's dangerous to go alone. Take this.
And keep your powder dry, my friends.
Thank you for listening to the Ask Joe Powder Powdcast. This episode was brought to you by Gema. Synchronized monitoring and control of your entire automated process is the core of Gema's Magic Control 4.0 data management systems, with options like line management, offering deeper insight into productivity and consumption, or energy management, allowing you to monitor and save both energy and air consumption, or batch management, offering tracking of powder used to coat production batches. Gema provides the very best in technology and connectivity for smarter factory automation. To learn more about Gema's Magic Control 4.0 data management systems, visit CompleteItWithGema.com. When you want to know that everything is covered, complete it with Gema.
Okay, before we wrap up, do you want to say this one? Why don't you say this one?
Okay.
Okay, sorry. Yeah,
Okay.
his name's Steve. He's a real character.
I just assumed it was Johnny Speedway.
No, this is a real dude. He and his wife have a powder coating company. Now we're really going down a rabbit hole.
We'll save that question for the April Fool's.
Yeah, the April Fool's episode. We'll
Okay.
put all our joke questions in that one.
All right.